And I was like, Andres, this doesn't sound good. And I'm just like, oh, let me have it. I'll fix it. I think you did something to it.
Did
Or I don't
I?
know.
I
I don't
can't
know.
remember.
We did something. Then it ended up sounding alright.
So hi guys, so today we're going to be talking about the production of 41 Mosquitoes by Tame Impala. Leo is going to go a bit deeper into the production of it. Most of it was done in Logic. Dan recorded a bunch of the guitars and the drums. So if you ever wanted to know how you could get a Tame Impala kind of sound, the inner speaker kind of sound, then this video might interest you. Let's just dive into it.
This cover was chosen by Dan, our guest drummer in this project. What made you choose that particular song by Tame Impala?
It's always been one of my favorite tracks by them, and it's very interesting because they had the latest album come out earlier this year. If you compare 41 Mosquitoes to some of the tracks from the new album, it's like they could probably be different bands. And 41 Mosquitoes was rooted in psych rock, nothing fancy at all, and it just really grooves. It reminds me a bit of like Eric Clapton, Cream.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's just something about it. It's really catchy. I think the main riff for the chorus and the vocal, very catchy.
I think you're right. And Tame Impala's gone through a massive evolution, right? From their very progressive psychedelic start. I didn't know that song, and I think it was quite cool.
Yeah. Because I think this was originally from the EP they did even before In a Speaker.
Yeah, I know there's Half a Glass of Wine.
Yeah.
EP, which is like the only one I knew.
Yeah, I think that one's the most popular one probably on that album. But I have a soft spot for 41 Mosquitoes.
Now, it's, in terms of the drumming, I mean, I think, like you were saying, Psych Rock and Inner Speaker and the EP, I think they're both very similar in terms of the sound, and it's all like, it feels analog, because now I feel like in terms of currents and, you know, what's the name of the new album? The Lone, I can't remember. I'm going to cut that
Slow
out.
Rush.
Slow Rush.
Slow Rush, yeah.
Yeah, I think the drums are mostly synthetic, and the sound, the way the beats are made are very pop. You know, it's a very on the beat. Has it completely disappeared, like the traditional kind of drumming from the new Tame Impala?
I don't think it's disappeared. I think it's evolved much in the same way the rest of the overall sound has evolved. I don't know what the like production workflow was for Parker, and if it was too different from his other albums, but there were some drums on the new album where I was like, wow. And I think he even tweeted or he said something saying that he spent weeks on this one drum track for this one song, getting them right. But at the end of that song, stylistically, it's not something you'd expect from Tame Impala. It's like something you might hear in a rave or like a drum bass. The drums on 41 Mosquitoes, you're right in that there weren't too many like bells and frills, which I think is part of the reason I enjoyed it, because it's just like bare bones, nothing fancy, but it's so effective.
From a non-drummer point of view, the drums don't seem too complicated in some bits, but they're really cleverly arranged, even in currents and Let It Happen. When you get that sort of like, they go into that little loop, and then they like let go, and it's back to real drums again. It's clever. Yeah, it's clever.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I love that moment. Drums are very smart, and in 41 Mosquitoes, the way they serve the guitar progression, without being incredibly technical and complex, they serve a very good purpose. I didn't look into any tutorial videos for how to play the drums. I just kind of tried to feel it out and listen to the track itself. But like for the verse, for instance, the backbeat is like ba 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 da ba 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 with the bass and the snare, right? And that phrasing, that rhythmic phrasing, it's everything you need to back up the guitar and the bass at that point. And that's what I mean in that the drums are efficient. But then in the other parts, in the chorus, he goes a bit more free, and there are some rolls. They're a good example of like no frills and no bells, not very complex, but so effective in their role.
I think that's a common theme and thing in music, generally speaking. Like it's easy to confuse something that technically is very complicated, even in the way you produce things, and something that's just efficient and serves its purpose. You know, sometimes you can spend an hour working on something, making it more and more complicated instead of just stripping it down and thinking, is it really even working? You know, am I just not making things complicated for the sake of making them complicated?
Yeah, I mean, in the majority of cases, like less is more. Almost always, less is more.
Sort of equipment you used, as in the drums and the mics and how you did the recording of it?
My dad is a drummer, so we have a little like home studio back at my family's house, and I think the kit we have is a Yamaha. I don't know exactly the model, but it's a jazz kit, which can sometimes be problematic because the skins on the toms have a different sound because they use different skins for jazz and then for rock or other kinds of kits. I need to try and like avoid toms if I'm not playing jazz. For instance, there's a part here in the build-up. I'm playing the floor tom there. Leo, you did a good job in production. Because I don't know, it just has a different sound, that jazz skin. And then the mics, again, I don't know the model. That's like my dad's side. He worries about all the tech and stuff. I can find out.
You're the performer, like, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, in terms of the number of mics that you were using, like, do you remember like how many mics were on at the time? It was so good, like the quality, that I just thought it might be good to know.
We do so many tests, me and my dad. We just record like 16 bars of a beat, listen back, tweak the drum, tweak the mics, record again, and then all these different variations. So basically everything was mic, snare, hi-hat, floor tom, bass drum. And we had two mics for the bass drum, one by the pedal, so you get that impact of the beater onto the front of the skin, and then one on the other side with the mic basically inside the hole. But again, the positioning of that mic, and basically every mic, is so strategic with the drums, because the drums are definitely the most difficult instrument to record. If you mess up on one mic, you mess up on all of them, really, unless you're really good in production and you're able to kind of
it's
get around that.
Yeah, the sound bleeds
Exactly.
into all the mics.
Yeah. The one thing we're missing and one thing we're working on is to get one or two overhead mics, just to get the whole sound, and then we have the individual mics for all the drums and cymbals.
Yeah, I've heard you can glue everything together so that it feels like it's part of this one massive room.
Exactly. It's strange discussing, like saying that you need to get the sound of the room, but that's totally part of it, because and that makes a difference whether you're recording in like the Royal Albert Hall, which is like massive, and then you have to think about how the acoustics work, or if you're in a very small little studio where sound bounces off the surfaces differently. All this stuff, which is like science, basically.
Well, it's like a whole career. I mean, really, as sound engineers, they have to, this is what they need to study for years.
We tend to like assume that, you have this massive knowledge, but in reality, performers, artists, writers, music producers, sound engineers, like a decade ago, it was all different people. Now it's like you're expected to have like a certain knowledge of all the things, but it's hard. Like it used to be different people's jobs to have like all these different things, like I think,
Yeah. The industry has changed. People can make albums from their bedrooms. So you're right, these people will need to know how to play an instrument, how to produce, how to mix, how to master, and all this. They're like the complete package now.
Yeah,
guys, my laptop's dying.
I don't know if you had met Leo before.
Chaotic energy.
A little bit, man.
Chaotic energy can be some of the most useful energy.
I think it'd be good to talk about the guitars. With Tame Impala, it's such an important thing, especially in the early records. It was all guitar. I mean, I think it was, well, at least for me as a teenager, when I had my old guitar and I would try to learn songs, Tame Impala, when it came out and became popular, it was like, oh, I want to learn this on guitar, because it was a very guitar-y sound.
I think what's so great about the Tame Impala guitars is the treatment and the effects put on in productions. What was the process for throwing on effects for the guitar solo at the end?
Let's see. Yeah, the guitar solo, I used preset American Metal. in Logic, you have to like sort of make up for the lack of reality, because we're not recording from real amps, we're not using real pedals. If you go straight into Logic and try use a preset, it'll sound kind of fake. For the solo, I layered two tracks. One of them is loud and a little tweak to the right, and then I put like a very soft one all the way to the left in the background, so it gives a little depth of sound, and then just worked around with pedals, layering, crunches, and distortion. Whereas for the verse,
It also can be some of the most useful language.
Did it crash?
For the verse, I watched a video on YouTube, video on how to get the Tame Impala sound with real things, right, with pedals and settings on the amp, and I tried to recreate that in Logic. So what I did was I tried working with distortion, but I didn't want the sound to be a distortion, because if you listen to Tame Impala, the guitar sounds distorted, but it's not like a distortion like in rock. I worked with things that give it grit, like fuzzes, you know, rather than distortions. I layered the fuzzes, and I also added some rotary on it. So it's that sort of like Pink Floyd. It's like what in Hammond organs, like the rotating effect. So that thins out the sound a little. The fuzz thickens it, and then when you put it together, you get this like over-compressed, fat guitar sound. And then on top of that, obviously, you do some compression, some EQing. So the EQing for the guitar, it's very standard. I took out some bass, increased some mids, little space for the reverb. Once you find the stuff that works for the song, yeah, you sort of leave it there and then make sure it works when you pair it up with all the other instruments. Nothing's overlapping in terms of frequencies.
Struggle to make room for the vocals with the guitars, because a lot of times guitars and vocals, they go on the same range in terms of what they're singing and what they're doing. Do you find it difficult to make them both fit in the mix?
I think with this particular song, so the vocals are very high pitched, right? You get like a lot of high frequencies, and I was trying to enhance the low frequencies of the guitar. That came out quite naturally separated, you know? I created a preset for vocals, sort of like in the Tame Impala sort of style, and that's literally compressor, reverb, a delay, and an EQ, where the EQ takes out a lot of the bass, but most of the bass, increases the highs, and it's sort of like a little slight increase on the sort of like low mids frequencies. I recorded the vocals in a room that I have in my parents' house in Italy, which is a large room, so it was very echoey. So what I did is there's a fireplace in the room that creates like a little corner. So I went into the little thing in the wall, put pillows on the thing, so that I was getting like a little bounce, and I had a bed on my back. So I was literally like between pillows and a bed in this little indentation in the wall that I was just hanging in there, like screaming in there. And it came out right.
A little makeshift voice booth.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
What you said, Dan, about the space as well. I used this very nice delay that's in Logic that's called Space Designer. That's literally what made the drums feel so deep, because it allows you to get the feeling that you're like in a bigger room.
The original is quite a wide, fat sound, especially in the verse, because the drums, the guitar, the bass, they're all quite thick. And I think getting the size was important. Thing I wanted to mention as well is the little egg shaker sound in the build-up.
We tried doing that because Andrews was like, we should do it in MIDI. And I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it in MIDI. But then I hate when I have drums that are real and I have the MIDI on it. I don't like it. I tried to do the by hand. I was doing it on my Mac keyboard, the actual computer keyboard, and I didn't think it was in time. I tried to like do it, and I was like, Andres, this doesn't sound good. And I'm just like, no, let me have it. I'll fix it. I think you did something to it. I don't know. I don't know. We did something. Then it ended up sounding alright. So now I have this MIDI track here, which is literally just a shaker.
It sounds good.
It sounds alright. Yeah, it's not bad.
And it fits. I think it really fits the part.
Yeah. All right, Dan, thank you so much for participating in this video. Thank you so much for the drums and for speaking to us here. This was really enjoyable. I hope you had fun as well.
It was enjoyable for me too. It was a pleasure. I hope to appear again soon if you have me.
Yes, we will.
Whether I want to or not, I will.
Thank you for everybody that made it to the end of this video. See you next time.